I want to preface this by saying I am by no means a top player. You could probably count the amount of times I've played ranked on your fingers, and I automatically got placed in bronze after never finishing my placements. I'm also mainly a console player, so no $10,000 gaming setups here. Despite that, I'd say I have a pretty good understanding of the game, and when it comes to Moji, I know my stuff. So, let's jump right in. Paladins is a game that has characters. One of those characters is Moji. One of the worst characters is Moji. Moji is one of the more unique champions in Paladins, and suffers because of it. She's almost always placed near the bottom of tier lists, and it makes me sad. But why is this? What makes Moji so bad, and can we fix her? Who knows? I certainly don't. So how about we find out together? Here's the layout of this video. First, I'll go over all of Moji's abilities, cards, and talents, detailing what's wrong with them, if anything. Then, I'll go over the changes I'd make to try and put Moji in a more balanced state. So, let's jump in. Moji really suffers at range, where she can't apply magic marks. Her spray only has a range of 70 units, which means she has to get in pretty close. This makes her pretty map dependent, but it's honestly fine. Having champions that are only effective close up isn't a bad thing and adds variety. The next issue though is the bane of any Moji player. Shields. Shields are a good thing for the game. Shields are not a good thing for Moji. Why? Because unless your name is Ruckus or Torvald, the magic marks don't apply to your shields. This means that instead of doing up to 1000 per burst with Familiar or Spit, you're down to 300 damage per burst. While Moji can technically make use of Wrecker since both Familiar, Spit, and Spray get buffed by it, it just upgrades it from a Wet Pool Noodle to an Overripe Avocado. Not worth it. Magic Barrier is a good ability. The only change that could maybe be made is the ability to cancel it early, but even then that's not necessary. Don't touch it, please. Scamper is weird. Using it normally, it's awful. One of the worst movement abilities in the game. Where it becomes good, however, is bunny hopping. If you cancel the ability early and then keep moving while jumping, you keep the momentum but get so much more control, and it's more fun. Still, Scamper isn't great. It's usable, but weird. Moji's ultimate. In theory, it's good. It's an execute, of course it'll be good. The issue comes from actually executing the execute to execute your execution target. First, you have to hit the target with a projectile that has a wind-up animation. If they have a shield, tough luck. Then you have to touch the cookie. They only last as a cookie for 4 seconds without unbound, and can go down to 2 seconds with max unbound. Their movement speed is only reduced by 10% when they're a cookie too. It's a struggle. None of Moji's talents are necessarily bad, though they aren't top tier. Snack Attack is pretty inconsistent, and Boom Boom, while fun, can be situational. Toot is by far the best talent, so there's not much reason to pick up the other ones most of the time. Here's all of Moji's cards. Now, let's cross out the bad cards. Wobbles and Scurry have the issue of not working well with bunny hopping. Will-o'-the-Wisp isn't worth running over Morning Breath and Peppy. You'll more often than not detonate magic marks before they can naturally run out. Greater Good isn't worth running over Disget and Life Rip. Other than that, Moji has some pretty good cards. Morning Breath in particular stands out, with Peppy and Symbiotic not far behind. The card I have the biggest issue with is Nature's Blessing. The card isn't bad, no, but I think that it holds the ultimate back from being better. It has the potential to make the ult spammable, which would mean they'd want the ult to be less powerful to compensate. I'd personally rather have the ult be good and used less often, so I don't think the card being reworked is the worst idea. Well, that's all the issues I have with Moji, other than her hitbox being large, but there's not much that can be done about that. Now it's time to try and remedy those issues. A few notes before we begin is that I'm not trying to make Moji an S-tier overpowered character. I want her to be balanced. It's also really important to say that I don't want all these changes made at once. I doubt these will make it into the game anyway, but I just want a couple of them made at a time. That being said, here we go. There are two ideas that I have to make this a bit better. The first would be to increase the base spit damage from 300 to 350 without increasing the damage to a marked target. This would make Moji be slightly less helpless against targets at a range, though honestly I don't think this is as good as the other change. What I think they should really do is just double her damage against shields other than Torvald and Ruckus. They've done this with Kasumi, whose stacks also don't work on shields, so why not Moji? I've thought about Scamper a lot. It's hard to buff it because bunny hopping means that effects would probably need to be used on activation rather than while the ability is active. I think I have two potential changes though. The first would be to put the self-healing from 2 into base kit with a lowered healing amount. I was thinking somewhere between 300 to 400, though I'm not a game analyzer. Then just make 2 increase the healing to 600 and apply it to allies, the same as it does now. The second change could be a bit more spooky, making Moji immune to crowd control during Scamper. This, on paper, is pretty busted. However, I think the fact that it's during Scamper instead of on activation means that it won't be so bad. This means that you'd have a choice to make. You can either bunny hop for the movement, only getting about half a second of CC immunity at best, or you can use the full Scamper for a bad movement ability, but get CC immunity for 1.5 seconds. This would need a lot of testing though. Now, this is where I really need to emphasize that I don't want all these changes made at once. I only want a couple of them made at a time at most. Anyways, let's get into them. Firstly, if you don't turn anybody into a cookie, refund some ult charge. I'd say about 30% to match con, but it could be higher or lower if needed. Another option could be to further reduce the speed of an enemy who's a cookie. Maybe about a 20% reduction in speed, though 15% might be enough. Now this next change may be a little bit too powerful, but I'll throw it out there anyways. Make the ultimate pierce shields. Yes, it could be argued that playing around shields is part of the skillfulness of the ult, but I think it would be fun. Honestly, I wouldn't change much about Moji's talents. Maybe Snack Attack could ignore Cauterize, though that might be too much. Or maybe it stays mediocre because of consistency, who knows. Boom Boom could maybe have its radius increased to 20, though that might prove too strong. This talent really shouldn't be changed. The only changes I'd make to Toot are putting a weaker version of the self-healing into base kit like I discussed with Scamper, but functionally the talent wouldn't change at all. Moji's talents are weird to balance without just completely reworking them. Wobbles and Scurry need to be changed to have their effects last 1.5 seconds after activating Scamper instead to work with bunny hopping. Greater Good needs to scale better, potentially up to 40% or so to keep up with Life Rip, though it might be better to just rework the card. Will-O-the-Wisp and Dense Woods just need reworks. I'm not sure exactly what. Maybe Wisp can also increase jump height, making it a card version of lethality? I don't know. Honestly, I think it's fine that Moji has some bad cards. She has plenty of good ones, so if they do decide to take a look at buffing Moji, hopefully her cards are the last thing they touch. Well, that's about all I got. I don't want them to rework Moji. Her kid is really fun. She just needs some extra help right now. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, cool. Glad I can make your day at least a little bit better. Bye.